All right. Wednesday night coffee. Yeah. This is COFOH Live Undead. I am your host, Daniel Crosier, and I am joined by the amazing Dave Baker. Wow!
You write something on my face?
Dave, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for coming on the show. The first thing I usually ask my guests is, who are you and where do you come from and how did you get into comics?
All right. Well, my name is Dave Baker. I'm originally from Arizona, but I've been living in Los Angeles for the past decade or so. Jeez. I write and draw comics. I've put out numerous books, probably about 10 or 12 graphic novels at this point. I was the writer on Star Trek Voyager, Seven's Reckoning,
Nice.
Fuck Off Squad, the Eisner nominated, Everyone is Tulip. I just had a book come out this week or last week from Simon & Schuster called Forest Hills Bootleg Society. And I think we're probably going to be talking about my new book, which I'm self-publishing, Halloween Boy.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Halloween Boy. Yeah, and just to start out with, I came across it. You're posting about it on Facebook. You and I are friends on Facebook, and I was like, oh my gosh, Dave put out a horror book. That was my first instinct, right? How naive I am. But I'm glad that you sent me the PDFs, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Because it's more of like kind of Flash Gordon, Doc Savage adventures in outer space fare.
It's like a spooky Indiana Jones. I like to say it's like what if Indiana Jones was starring in Dracula? So it's like it's a retro futuristic kind of Halloween themed adventurer who's a part of a dynastic legacy of, I'm gonna move here.
Sure.
Dynastic legacy of kind of people who try and help individuals in impossible situations, but he has something of a dark past, and he's kind of haunted by it. And the book itself is kind of this mixture of all these kind of pulp influences that I like, and maybe mashed up with some horror stuff, some spooky stuff, and some art house vibes. It's like all of that stuff put in a blender and then spit out into an art house indie comic. Right.
No, I thought it was such a lovely departure from the fare that you would normally get with something of that genre, where it becomes like kind of like a DC comic where it's like maybe Adam Strange out in space hanging out with Green Lantern, or duking it out with Hawkman and some of his villains or something like that. But this has such a I'm going to bring up some of your art from issue number 2. I absolutely love the style that you're working in. It's really there's a lightness to it, but at the same time it's incredibly intriguing and complex, even though it's very, very simplified from like the heavy 4-color, aspects that you normally get with superhero fare. But yeah, it just seems so fun and playful.
Yeah, the project kind of started because maybe like, honestly, I don't fucking know. Time has no meaning anymore. Oh, a certain unspecified amount of time ago, I was in talks. The publisher Floating World Comics and I do a lot of work together. They
Cool.
published my series with Alexis here at Night Hunters. I'm good friends with the owner, Jason Levian. He's a good guy. And, they put out a lot of books, and we were talking about, how could we grow the Floating World brand? Well, one of the ways is to try and get some licenses. So I kind of took it on myself to go, I don't know, let's see what licenses I could scare up. And I thought, well, what would I want to do? Like, what are the things that I would want to do? And so I made a list, and one of those things was Common Rider, and the next thing was the Phantom. And I got in touch with the owners of Common Rider, and we talked with them for a certain amount of time, and then the money was just there's leagues beyond what we were going to be able to pay. So moved on from Common Rider, started talking, trying to get in contact with King Features, who are the people who control the Phantom. I'm a huge Phantom fan. Huge. In fact, there's a Ben Cooper Phantom mask over me right now. I'm not even going to try and take it down.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, I love the Phantom. Huge fan of Kit Walker Jr., as they say. And I was like, if I had my druthers, like if I could do any of these characters, like I would want to try and get the rights to the Phantom and reboot him as like an art house indie comic. And so I reached out to them, and shock of all shocks, they were open to the conversation. So we had some meetings, and it kept going up and up and up the food chain. And I kept being like, this is not going to happen, right? Like, they're not going to let me do like, I love the Phantom. They're not going to let me do this. And so finally we got to the point where they were like, all right, yeah, we like you guys. Write up a God document of what you would do with both the Phantom and Flash Gordon, because both of the licenses were open at that point.
Nice.
And so I wrote this big sprawling thing of like, this is how I would fix the Phantom and kind of try and take out some of the colonialist overtones in the Phantom. This is how I would fix some of the stodgy old man comicsness of him, and this is how I would try and make him appealing for specifically indie comics readers of today. And this is what my plan would be. And these, we basically the pitch was the Phantom, if he was Indiana Jones in a science fiction world. It'll be a Phantom in the far future. It won't be Kit Walker Jr. It'll be his great descendant, and we're gonna have the comic itself deal with the legacy of the Phantom and all of its problematic nooks and crannies, and also have the comic itself be like a two-fisted adventure yarn where it's, he's going to be traveling to other worlds and teaming up with aliens and making friends and enemies, and maybe he has psychic powers. I don't fucking know.
Right.
And I basically was like, let's do Buckaroo Banzai if he starred in a Flash Gordon movie. And they were like, go with God, my friend. They were not interested in that.
Wow.
So the discussions kind of stalled out at that point, and I was finishing up another book, and I was like, well, what am I going to do next? And I just kept coming back to the pitch documents that I wrote for the Phantom, and I was like, I really like a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took the ideas that I had for Flash Gordon and the ideas that I had for the Phantom and kind of melded them together, threw in a little bit more of, stuff to make it legally distinct and definitely not the Phantom. Please don't sue me. and then that's kind of how you get Halloween Boy. And I've been making it ever since. In fact, I just finished issue 3's letters today, so the whole book is done now, and I'm sending it to print in the next couple days. I have to send it to the designer tomorrow.
Man, that's awesome. The story is pretty fun, just the idea of this guy, Halloween Boy, kind of growing up on Hades Island, this floating asteroid, and being raised by all these different computer systems, and I guess super brains too. And
I really wanted to make it feel like the thing I like so much about and relate to so much about like pulp novelists is, and especially guys who worked under anonymity. Like I'm a big fan of Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew and basically all the novel series who were written by the Stratemeyer Syndicate. So if anybody doesn't know, there was this guy named Edward Stratemeyer who would set up these long-running series of detective adventure novels aimed at little kids and he would hire ghost writers to come in and do them. And he
Mm.
would make fake pseudonyms. So like Franklin W. Dixon is the author that is credited as having created the Hardy Boys. There is no Franklin W. Dixon. The main writers of the Hardy Boys, there was like 3 of them. The main one that I'm a fan of is this guy named Leslie McFarlane, and he kind of shaped a lot of the world of the Hardy Boys, gave Frank and Joe their voices, built out, like basically they were the Jack Kirby to Edward Stratemeyer's Stan Lee in his ideas, right? Stratemeyer would be like, he had a formula. It was like, all right, we've got 2 brothers. This is who they are. Their dad is a police officer. They go here. They do this. They've got this friend, and they go over there, and then we have them solve mysteries. And like the key like subtext to all of these novels, and there's super long running series. Like there's like hundreds of Hardy Boys books and Nancy Drew books, and those aren't on the 2 either. They also did Trixie Belden, which was a horse themed girl detective. They did the Bobbsey twins. They did there's like like 15 different series that they did over this long running period. But the thing that I like so much about them is that you can read any of them and they're structured so that you understand the story you're reading, but you're aware of a larger context. And so that was kind of something that I was thinking about when I was building this, of like, I want it to feel like, yes, you're reading a Halloween Boy story, but it should feel like there's all of this other stuff, like I want it to feel like a really long running cartoon. Like he's got his vehicle and he's got his sidekick and he's got his, the checklist of things that all of these characters have. I want Halloween Boy to have like the coolest Saturday morning cartoon version of all of those things.
Kind of basically, he's well established, already living in a well established world and
totally.
stuff. It feels like you can pretty much drop into either issue 1 or issue 2 and then just take off for that adventure.
Yeah, I purposefully have structured them so that they are individual stories. Each issue is oversized. It's like 40 pages of story and then like a 10-page essay about either process or something, so you can buy any issue and read it and be completely satisfied. It's a full meal. There's an adventure, a beginning, a middle, and an end, a conflict that he has to overcome, or an arc that he goes through. But there's also this continuing kind of storyline throughout all 4 chapters where he and this alien girl who's become his kind of sidekick, his short round or his Robin or whatever. They're kind of uncovering this secret legacy that he's a part of, and this network of adventurers who may or may not have been good people. It's still kind of up in the air of like, it's kind of weird that we live on a giant floating skull island. It doesn't exactly seem like a hero base, right?
Right. Oh man, there was a what was it? The actors from Peep Show. They did a skit.
Mitchell and Webb.
Yeah, Mitchell and Webb. They did a little skit about the Nazis, and they're sitting there in their Nazi gear, and they got like skulls on their on their.
Are we the baddies?
Exactly. Are we the baddies? It's like, well, those guys have like flags and eagles and stuff, and we've got skulls. What does that say?
Yeah. Little did they know that fascism comes in all shapes and sizes.
Right. Oh, very much so. Yeah. And that was something like I really picked up on issue 2, where you really get a sense of the politics of all these different conflicts and how issue 2 kind of resolves itself, but then opens up looks like a little bit of a cliffhanger that opens up more to kind of Halloween Boy's story.
Yeah, the kind of the thing I like so much about a lot of pulp characters, Doc Savage specifically, is that they're infallible, right? They're Batman too, to a certain extent, because he started as a pulp character. He's just been continually being refreshed every year. So people don't think of him that way, but he absolutely is a pulp character. And the thing I like about them is that so often they're infallible, they're godlike, they have a solution for every situation. You know, you're
Right.
never gonna beat Sherlock Holmes. He's always gonna outsmart you. You're never gonna be able to pull a fast one on Doc Savage because his mental acuity is just so off the charts that he's going to have planned for you to outsmart him, and then he will have outsmarted you in your outsmarting of him, you know?
Yeah.
And I like that stuff, but I think that the thing that's more interesting to me is somebody whose mission statement, whose raison d'etre is to like find an unwinnable scenario
Mhm.
and insert themselves into it. And that's kind of Halloween Boy's thing, right? He like
Right.
is the patron saint of the impossible in air quotes.
Right.
And you know, the first issue the situation he's in is not particularly impossible. He's like going to rescue a crystal. And so you
Right.
follow him on this adventure. He rescues the crystal. He saves this young girl. She's like, "Hey, you're cool." And he's like, "Oh, really? Everybody usually thinks I'm fucking weird." And she's like, "Yeah, I'll stay on this weird island with you. I was like a slave and I was genetically experimented on to be a living
Right.
weapon. So this creepy skull island is actually not half bad." And he's like, "Oh, okay, sick." And so in the second issue, there's a little bit more of an exploration of what it means to be caught in an impossible scenario.
Mhm.
And specifically, like, without getting super dark, it's just revolutions rarely end in a positive way. They usually just
Right.
establish a different type of totalitarian regime. So the story for issue 2 follows Halloween Boy as he's called back to this place where he helped as a guerrilla fighter in an effort to free a people from a totalitarian monarchy and set up what they thought was a religiously called a queen. And turns out new master, same as the old master. The
Mhm.
situation has evolved to be basically just as bad as it used to be. And so it's kind of about the emotional wear and tear that these adventurers go through. And I'm not saying this is like Alan Moore level, like, and now we're really gonna deconstruct what it means to
Right.
be a
Right.
hero. Like
Right.
it is there are shades of experiencing the tragedy of existing on a long enough timeline that you are forced to come to grips with the ramifications of the decisions that you've made.
Right.
Um, and I think on its surface, it's probably, Halloween Boy looks as like just a fun romp, two-fisted tale, and it is that. But to me, it's also a really personal story, and it's something I'm really for better or for worse, sinking my heart and soul into, man. I really there's a sense of forlornness and sadness in the protagonist that I really yeah, I think that's the aspect of it. Other than there's some of the drawing I think is pretty good. Like
Yeah.
some of it's I'm like, well, I had to get through that panel, but I think I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to find a book that looks like this. Like there's probably people that do things different better than me, but I don't think that there's anybody that's trying to do this thing. Therefore, it's really easy to be the best at it.
Well, so talking about like style and everything, but one of the things that kind of grabbed me is, and I've seen your work before, is like in this context, it kind of reminded me of like when they revamped um, Thundercats for like the third time and had like that really kind of um,
Mm, yeah,
um,
Victor Courtwright. Yeah.
yeah, it was really kind of more kid friendly looking type stuff. But this is not necessarily. This is definitely an adventure story that you would normally see, in that DC Comics pseudo realistic kind of superhero style. And this is it's not that. It's not presented that way, and I think it just makes it, I think, that much more intriguing with the visuals and the context, especially going into issue 2, where you get the more politics and the fact that not everything's it's not going to be black and white, even though the sidekick Carrion, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
She's like, well, it needs to be black and white. It's like, hey, we get where you come from. You used to be a slave, and that's a dark place. But you know these we're dealing with some bigger systems, and it's not always going to be that so
Yeah.
simple. It
Yeah.
can't.
I think on the art side, I'm really kind of, um, I think for a while, I think I was trying to prove this is I don't think this anybody else would notice this about the illustrations, but for me, I think I was really trying to prove
Mhm.
that I could generate work at a very high volume. And the work was still good,
Yeah.
but it was the emphasis was like, I'm gonna put out like 300-page graphic novels, and I'm really gonna take my time, and I'm really gonna, make these giant tomes, and I'm gonna make them over multiple years, and I'm gonna like just pour everything into this object, this kind of container of 300 pages. And I've done that multiple times, and I can tell you, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. So I
Yeah.
think for this project, I was really like, okay, I just finished this giant book. I'm gonna try and do the opposite. I'm gonna try and focus on the streamlining my style, not
Mhm.
in that it would be simple because it's frankly more complex than it was, but streamlining the way I draw,
Okay.
and I'm gonna focus on publishing things incrementally. So I've
Yeah.
put out the first 40-page issue in July. I put out the next one in September, and then the third one's gonna come out on Halloween. So
Wow.
it's it's really it's a really like it's a grind of like I'm trying to place primacy on the act of completion as opposed to
Yeah.
the act of kind of like simmering and like thinking about it and changing things and moving pages around. And because like that's kind of how I made my last couple of books, is I would make a large number of pages and then I would lay them all down on the floor, and I would like watch the movie of the book from page to page,
Mm.
and then I'd be like, I need 2 more pages there, or this scene actually works better as an opening, and I would like move
Right.
stuff around. And I'm still kind of doing that, but I'm
Yeah.
doing it on a much faster pace, mostly to just have that dopamine hit of putting a fucking thing out.
Right. Right. Man, that's pretty impressive. And you're doing that on top of the day job, right?
Yeah, I have a day job and I write other comics, and yeah, like I just said, we had my partner Nicole Gu and I had
Yeah.
a young adult graphic novel come out from Simon and Schuster 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
called Forest Hills Bootleg Society, which I'm very proud of, and
Awesome.
it got a Publisher's Weekly starred review, and it's like doing very well. I
Good.
guess I don't. No one told me any sales numbers, but
Yeah.
by the fact that they're advertising it in places, I think it's doing all right, which I'm very excited about. And I've also written another graphic novel that Nicole's currently drawing, and I've got 2 other projects that are happening in the background, and I think that's something that I kind of. I think there are people who they're most content when they are working, and I am 100% that type of person. I'm the most
Right.
happy at the end of a day when I've worked like 12 hours and I'm like,
Mm.
"Yeah, I did
Right.
all that shit." And then I go to sleep and then wake up the next morning, I'm like, "Fuck, I gotta do it all over again."
Yep. Yep. Oh man, is with that kind of pace? Is that like can you fit that workload? Because I'm always impressed with artists, uh, you know how they work and their discipline too. Because
Mhm.
so many people on the outside looking in, oh, you guys are lazy and you're having fun. This is fucking work.
Yeah,
And
it's hard. Yeah, it's really hard, yeah.
and keeping that discipline, you really have to stay disciplined. I'm constantly fighting that because it's so easy to get distracted. Yeah,
Yeah, I
especially.
think for me, I've just had to like trick my brain into being unhappy when I'm not being productive. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing either. I'm not advocating that anybody else should do this. I don't think it's healthy necessarily. But it's the only way I feel good now is like at the end of the day, being able to like stand over the table and look at like the 3 pages I've drawn and been like, ah, yeah, those zombies look fucking sick or whatever. I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. The
I think I'm also like specifically with Halloween Boy,
yeah,
I'm just trying to remove the amount of second guessing that happens. So
okay,
my current workload is like I'll do construction lines in a red pen, this red architectural pen, and then I will. It's very loose. It's very just kind of like there's a circle for a head, and there's some fucking arms here, and there's a guy there. I don't know. And then
yeah,
I'll go in pencil and just straight draw it in pencil, and then take that, lay it down on my scanner, scan it, pull out the red in Photoshop, and then tone and letter it in Procreate. And it doesn't sound like that should be a big step to lay a piece of paper on a fucking flatbed scanner and hit
it is.
scan. But for
Yeah,
some reason, it just really is for me. Like I really, it's like that's such a like a permanent, like almost phase shift from the world of physical drawing on paper
right,
into digital
right,
stuff
right.
that I really have had to like, because I used to just like stare after it would be done. I would like stare at it for like a solid like couple days of just like not literally like staring at it the whole time, but like
Sure,
I would
sure.
leave it out and I would like be putzing around, and then I would look at it and go, I don't know, that face is weird. Maybe I should redraw that face. That kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Just trying to eliminate that stuff from the process and just only have pure creativity happening. None of the second guessing or kind of like, "Mm, okay, I guess it's good." You know what I mean?
yeah, kind of living in that spontaneity, you know,
Yes,
let
yes.
letting that exist, and then yeah, I totally can see that with a lot of the work in the panels, because you've got these great action sequences and they're happening in these tiny little panels. I'm like, oh my god, there's so much detail going on in there, and you really got to, as a reader, you got to sit there and just kind of like absorb it. And it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's what's going on. And, it's great. I think it's a lot of fun. I totally see, where, the influences from like the Phantom come from. And now I'm like, man, I would love to have seen the Phantom in that style, but
Ironically, the page, it's the I think it's page 2 of
mhm.
issue 1 where Halloween Boy is like sitting on the like dinosaur. It's like a full page shot of him sitting on his pet dinosaur Saber, and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
so
yep.
that page was drawn as the test image for the Phantom. So
Oh,
so that page, everything on that page, minus his shoulders and his head
right.
with the giant ears, because Halloween Boy has these big,
Yep.
triangular ear shapes. Other than that, everything on that page was a Phantom drawing. And then when they finally said, you know what, we've looked at your drawings and your pitch docs and stuff, and we just don't think it's right for us. Then I took it and redrew his head and shoulders to give him the
Cool.
Halloween Boy like jumpsuit and the his ears on the mask.
Right. Right.
And then that was that after that was the first drawing that like started everything, where I like did that kind of splash page or whatever, and was just like, there's something here. I don't fucking really know what it is, but there's
Yeah.
something here.
But yeah, at the same time, Phantom be damned, because I can't wait for the series, issues of Halloween Boy, because this seems really exciting. There's definitely something, something here, and I think you're right. It's it's gonna take several issues to build up to this fantastic world building saga.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's very fun to make. It's been getting a very positive response from people on the internet. People have been, you know, I've sold more of these things on my personal website than I've sold anything else, which is saying
Oh wow,
something. And then I've started like making toys and stuff of him, and
nice.
yeah. Here, hold on. I'll grab one. Hold on.
Oh yes, yeah. Sweet. We're gonna see some Halloween Boy toys. Hmm. Oh wow.
All right, so these are prototypes. I've been working with a couple sculptors. These ones are made by a sculptor named Jordan, who makes stuff under the handle Triple D printing. So basically, I design the figures, send him turnarounds. He 3D sculpts it and then uses a 3D printer to print it, sends it to me, and then I paint them as the prototypes of before we get them mass produced. So here is a little Halloween boy.
Oh,
Oh,
sweet.
you can't even.
Yeah, with your filter on. Nice.
Yeah, so they're like about the adult characters are about like 5-ish inches tall, 5.5. Um, uh, Halloween boy. I'm saying this for the audience, not you, Daniel. I know you know this. But
Yeah.
Halloween boy had like a butler that's basically like a giant Frankenstein head with arms and legs, called Frankenoid, and
Oh, cool. That looks awesome.
yeah, he's like, yeah, let's put him there.
There you go.
Filter scene.
Right in the middle. Nice.
Yeah, he's about like 6.5 inches tall, and then the Phantom has Devil, his dog, and is the horse named Angel? What the fuck is the horse named? Whatever. The horse. He has a horse. Fucking
Yeah.
the Phantom has a horse that he rides around on. Then he says like, Angel, come here, and then
Right.
the horse responds to him. But we got to level it up from that. So
Dinosaur.
he's a
Oh
fucking
yeah.
dinosaur.
I love that the design has the feathers and stuff too. It's
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
very
I haven't painted this prototype yet, but yeah, you can put them in like
sweet.
so. And yeah, I've got a carrion over there, and I've also got, this is the figure I'm working on mass producing right now with a factory. He's the villain of the next book that I just set up. Is a graphic novel that Top Shelf is going to put out.
Cool.
That takes place, kind of in the same world as Halloween Boy. So yeah, that's kind of what my pandemic hobby was, kind of like, I'm just gonna start making toys.
That's awesome. They going back to like Halloween Boy, like reading kind of that the conversation, or what you were writing about how Halloween Boy kind of came about. You were talking about this kind of arose out of you being stuck in a room for 2 years during the pandemic, and it sounded like and I might be projecting, so definitely stop me if I am, but it sounded like it was a coping mechanism, whether it was dealing with the daily depressions, or any of the other issues that you were this was a way to kind of work through it.
Yeah, I think it totally was. And I think it was also a reaction to the previous book, because basically, for full disclosure, I made this other book that character is from. And it took me 4 years to draw it. And low key, it's the hardest thing I've ever made, the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, it like at one point I was just like, is this gonna kill me? Like, what is this? This book is never gonna get published. It was rejected by everyone. Everyone says it's non-commercial. Everybody says I'm insane for trying to do this. This is, the book is a hybrid prose novel and comics, like graphic novel project, which most comic book publishers just are inherently opposed to, I guess. Yeah, they don't like it. I think it's cool, but they don't like it. So it was very hard to get anybody to believe in this project that I had spent like 4.5 years working on, and I was wrapping it up towards the tail end to the peak of the pandemic, and I was just like, I will not do that again. Like, I know that I will not survive doing a project that was like this again. Maybe I'll try it again someday, some other day, but for right now, I need to do something that is like straight from the gut, the equivalent of a power chord. You know, I need to do something that's quick and stupid and fun. And knowing myself, I'll make it overly complex and elaborate because I can't not do that. But I need to start with the dumb. I
Yeah.
think the thing is, the other book started with this elevated, high concept literary thing, and then got more complex and more complex. Where the goal with Halloween Boy is to start with something almost kind of dumb, where it's just like,
Yeah.
it's a fucking adventure book. Oh no. And then like over the course of it, it'll get more personal and more, you know, complex, because that's just kind of who I am. I can't help myself to not do that stuff.
Right.
But yeah, it definitely was a coping mechanism, and it's been a very healing process too. It's been the amount of disinterest and just complete apathy that people in positions of power, other than Chris Staros, who is a genius and amazing. I love you, Chris Staros. Thank you for publishing my book. Have had towards the project. This has been the exact opposite, where it's been a lot of people. It's been basically what I'm saying. I'm trying to not be cheesy, but it's been a real blessing. It's been a real blessing to have gone through, for me, what was a real creative kind of dark hour of the soul, and like questioning, do I keep doing this? Like, is this just, no one likes this? And then almost from the word go, like as soon as I posted the cover to Halloween Boy #1, even before the first issue was out, people were like, what is this? What is this? What is this?
Yeah.
Can I buy this? What is this? And I was like, whoa. All right. I'm not used to this. Okay.
Nice. Yeah. Is it also available on digital platforms like Comixology or Webtoons?
It is not yet. Frankly, I should put it up on Webtoons, but there's only so many fucking hours in the day. Yeah. So no, right now the only way to really get it is just through my self-publishing stuff, which can be found at heydavebaker.com. And it's just there on my site. But also, let's be real. If you really want to read it, you just fucking send me an email or a DM, and I'll send you some PDFs. I'm not super, I'm not that stingy.
Yeah, we've got your website scrolling at the bottom there. So everybody that's interested in following Dave and his work and collecting his books, and you've got other collectibles on there too.
There's a lot of stuff, a lot of books, a lot of other projects, pins, patches. I've made a bunch of stuff. Going to conventions, man. It's a good excuse to put stuff together. So it's fun.
Yeah, and speaking about that too, what's the experience been like for you? Coming out of the pandemic, getting back into the in-person events.
Well, I think it's still a little scary. It's a lot physically harder now to wear those fucking N95 masks for 5 days in a row, cram next to people in convention centers. I only did like 3 or 4 shows this year compared to the normal like 15 or 20. So I'm still pretty conservative about traveling, and like, the multiple variants and the fucking like I don't know. The long story short is, I'm still not fully convinced that this fucking thing is over, and I'm taking it one step at a time.
Yeah. Better play it safe.
Yeah. And honestly, like the end of this year is, I kind of just am hunkering down, gonna finish Halloween Boy. My goal is to have the whole thing done by the time I leave for France. And then, my partner Nicole and I are gonna go live in France from January 1st to April 1st.
Cool! That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. My passport just showed up, so I I had to get it renewed because it it expired. So we booked tickets and places and everything, and I was like, fingers crossed my fucking renewal goes through okay. but yeah, we're gonna go live in France for 3 months and work on books. So I want to start a new project once I'm there, and I think I know what the new thing is, but I might get
Ooh.
there and be like, I'm gonna make a comic about Napoleon. Fuck it.
That'll be nice. Yeah, love to see your take on Time Bandits. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of like weird Napoleon research. I don't know if you know anything about him, but I didn't know much prior to this little obsessive streak that I'm on right now.
Yeah,
I didn't know that he wasn't French. I thought he was a French dude. He was
yeah,
fucking Corsican. And I was like, "What?" He was like a Corsican like son of like sheep farmers who rose through the French aristocracy to become the emperor of France? This like doesn't this isn't real.
yeah, yeah. It feels like such a fictional character for somebody that actually lived.
Yeah, and also how like what a sad character he was, like such a
Yeah,
fucking like haunts and like taken advantage of by women and never really sought after in that way and very self-conscious about it, and that probably fueled some of his dictatorial impulses, and also the good things that he did aside from the like 3 million French people that died to further his empire. But like I didn't know that like all the bridges across the Seine he had made. Like I didn't know that like the French doctrine of like human rights was from him. Like I didn't know that like all of like the not all, but a large percentage of the basis of what we now view as like kind of modern civilization, which was kind of filtered from the French, was directly because of Napoleon. I was like, this is fascinating. Why didn't we learn about any of this in school?
right.
Uh,
Yeah, kind of weird byproducts of somebody that's so much made to be a villain.
Oh, and he was. I'm not saying he wasn't. Like
Yeah,
he fucking murdered a shitload of people. Like I'm not saying he was a cool guy. But it's the interesting ebbs and flows in people's character, and also the fact that he got like put into exile twice. Like he lost. Then
wow.
they shipped him to this island that was like near Corsica called Edan or Eid something. I don't remember what it's called, but it was
Mm.
like a small island with like a bunch of people, and they christened him the emperor of that island. And then he like fixed a bunch of the stuff in the island, paved a bunch of roads, like ruled over the island for a couple of years, and was just like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going back to France. Got a bunch of those dudes together, got on a boat, went back to France, and the king at the time sent an army to go kill him. And he just like walked up to the army and said, brothers, your emperor has returned. And everyone just started cheering, and they turned around and walked with him back to the palace and like
Ooh,
drove the king out. And they were just like, vive l'empereur, vive l'empereur. Like wild, wild shit.
that's pretty insane. I knew of his exile, the first exile, but what about the second one?
So the second one is when he was exiled on the island called St. Helens. And that's the one where it was basically just like, oh, it's over. Like
Yeah.
there was like him and like 15 people on this island who were like taking care of him because the Prussians, the Russians, and the British didn't want, and the Italians didn't want to kill him because they didn't want to make him um a martyr. Yeah, they didn't want to make him a martyr. So he made a deal. He turned himself over to the British because he thought they would be the most lenient.
Mm.
And he was like, I just want to like put me in a cottage in the French countryside or in the English countryside. And the English dudes were just like, nah, bro, we know you. You're going to like stage some other fucking rebellion. We're putting you on this island way the fuck out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Fuck this. And so he got to pick like, I think 10 people or 15 people that could be like his aides. And they put him in a shack on this island that was mostly just volcanic rock. And the shack was like a former like cow paddock or whatever. Like they like
Oh, interesting. Okay.
renovated like a stall where horses used to live and shit. And he like just lived there for like 5 years and then basically died of a broken heart. Like he
Yeah.
died of health issues, but it's like, he's a fucking like emperor conqueror obsessed with power. He's a dictator, a master of men. And when you put that guy just like on an island hanging out, he just like basically died of boredom, which is
Yeah.
so insane to me.
Yeah.
And he like
Well,
spent the last 5 years of his life like dictating novels of his life story to people, which none of which are true. He was all just like,
yeah.
and then I was fucking
Oh,
badass for like,
yeah.
5 years.
Yeah. Well, that kind of, comes back around with the complexity of some of these, political figures, you know, does come back around to like Halloween Boy too, and the
It's
politics.
very flattering of you to say that.
Yeah. Well, because yeah, there's no easy mend to that political, fight that's going on between these two factions, and in the middle is this romance that unfortunately one has to kind of succumb to and become a political prisoner. Yeah, hopefully I'm not giving too much away, but this should whet everybody's appetite who's watching this to go read Halloween Boy.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
yeah, there's a lot a lot of density to it, a lot of meat. While you were talking about, it's like, oh, I want to do something simple and fun and everything. And it's just like, yeah, but you're putting a lot of complex ideas in there. Yeah, already in the second issue. I think that's where for me it really kind of took hold. The first one's a nice introduction to the world and everything, but now it's just like, oh, okay, what's the third issue going to bring if it if you do continue down that more personal Halloween Boy backstory that's kind
Yeah.
of alluded to.
Yeah, it's definitely there. There's a bunch of stuff for him, and also there's a lot of development, I think, for Carrion and her kind of position in everything in the third issue. And then the fourth issue, which I'm going to be starting to draw next week, is all mapped out.
Wow.
And yeah, well, I gotta get going, Daniel. I got like
I know,
I only got till fucking I gotta get it before January, man. I gotta fucking finish this thing.
How many volumes is this all going to be?
This first book is gonna be four
Okay.
issues.
Okay.
And then I haven't quite decided if I'm gonna do another volume of this or another volume of the other book that I sold to Top Shelf or another idea. But I kind of want to do like a couple self-contained stories that all take place in the same world, and then do like a kind of like 1990s like comics crossover, like a Judgment Day or something, where it's like all of
Right.
those books, the characters showing up to do stuff, to stop some invading threat or something. I don't know exactly what.
That's so cool. Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I can't wait to see what comes further on for Halloween Boy, and hopefully you can get to that point where all these different worlds can intersect and play in each other's sandbox.
Yeah, barring my right hand falling off, I think I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, well, yeah, just don't let anything happen to that right hand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that's kind of why I stopped skating. I like ate shit out in front of my house a couple. Well, it was longer than I was about to say a couple months ago. It was longer than that now because I haven't been skating for probably about a couple years now. But I was skating down the street, and this woman was walking the other direction, and I did one of those just kind of like, "Hey, what's up?" nods. And as I was doing this, the board hit a crack in the street, and I just ate shit. I just ate shit so hard. And she looked at me and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm fine."
Yeah, the vital parts are still working.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that was the kind of turning point where I was just like, I don't know, man. I hate to say things like too old, but I think my wrists are just too precious at this current juncture to enjoy skating the way I once did.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. Hey, yeah, Dave, it's been a pleasure having you on and learning more about your work and yeah, Halloween Boy. Um, with the toys, yeah, or the action figures, I should say. Uh, any release date in mind, or are you still playing with the prototypes?
I'm still playing with prototypes and trying to figure out the production cycle of things. I'm talking to 2 different factories, and also like one of my friends here in LA who's like a prop maker I don't quite know which way I'm gonna go, because it's like I could do injection cast molding, vinyl, or like, the bootstrapped version where it's more just like, oh yeah, it's me and my friends just like making this in my buddy's garage, so I don't quite have an answer for that yet, but it will definitely happen before February 28th, 2024, because that's the date that my top shelf book is going to be released, which
Cool.
is so far away, but also not that far away. So
Not that
I don't
far
know.
away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, but before you know it, it's gonna be right up on you.
Yeah, I know, man. For real. For real.
Oh man. Well, Dave, yeah, again, thanks for coming on. Stick around for a little bit, but for everybody that tuned in, make sure you go to Dave's website. Hey, Dave Barker or Baker, sorry. HeyDaveBaker.com. Damn it. Shoot. All right. But yeah, stick around for a few minutes while we sign off. And to everybody that tuned in, thanks so much. Of course, I want to thank our sponsors, Mutiny Information Cafe. If you are starting a revolution, make sure you're caffeinated. And of course, Hellfire Entertainment. Thanks for rebroadcasting us on your social media, and Groovy TV. And of course, to our friends at Alien Donut Film, thanks for putting up with my shit there, Bill and Angela, and my producers, Stephen Santa Cruz and Amanda Armstrong. And to all you guys out there, hey, be good, be kind during these tough times, help each other out, and remember to stay spooky. Go check out Dave's website, HeyDaveBaker.com. I got it right the second time. Thank God. All right. Have a good night, everybody.